moment. Obviously, we've still got the situation in Libya there. They're still talking about a stalemate happening. Britain's come out and said, aid, not weapons, for rebels in Libya. Foreign Secretary William Hague told MPs yesterday non-lethal equipment would be provided by the UK, such as telecommunications. Yeah, non-lethal equipment, just put some lethal SAS in there. US leaves skies to NATO as diplomats battle with a stalemate in the desert war. And this is the big fear, isn't it, in Libya, that if they don't arm the rebels and don't get a decisive leader, then where does the conflict go? There's been talk as well about getting Gaddafi's son, Saif al-Islam, is it? He's been offering to step forward and be the new leader. In order to do that, though, he's going to have to become a puppet, isn't he? Puppet of the Western powers. I mean, if you look at the world, we're seeing a situation where we've got US, Canada, Mexico on this side, the European countries and Russia and China, and right in the middle you've got Africa, basically just being squeezed by these powers. As much of as a power as Europe is, with all these individual countries, but if you just look at the world map, you've just got this landmass in the middle that hasn't been paid that much attention, has it? After the Second World War, when the British Empire fell apart, what was left of it by that point, you've got these many African nations declaring independence after the Second World War, remaining part of the Commonwealth though. So the Queen basically retaining her interest in those countries, and then obviously MI5, MI6, the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, obviously playing their part in these African countries. And again, if you look at the sort of geopolitical world map, you've got these very established countries on the left and right of the African continent that are now squeezing into it. China's making a play for resources in Africa. America's getting nervous about that. Europe's just kind of doing some stuff like we always do. We kind of mess around a little bit. France is getting a bit upset, isn't it? France has always had quite a historical relationship with Africa. Maybe, it appears to me, maybe it's a little bit more positive than the UK. I mean, the United Kingdom just went into just bleeding dry of all resources. I'm sure that's the goal of every government in Africa, but France always seemed to have a kind of supportive relationship. It always felt like. So what's happening here now is the Ivory Coast, and basically this is about power, right? We've got two factions, Alassane Ouattara and Laurent Gbagbo. Struggling with these names as always. French President Nicolas Sarkozy authorised 1,600 strong French Licorne force based in West Africa to help the UN, basically, and the UN have been bombing Laurent Gbagbo's forces in order to get them out. So there we go, and this is just the thing with Africa is it's just resource rich. So if you know that China's making a play for these places, and they do it very diplomatically, don't they? I mean, they're very kind of sly and backhanded. I get the impression you don't really hear them. They don't go in and fight with anyone. Whereas the US, the Europeans, the UN, with its sort of wrapper of the US and Europe just goes in and bombs people. That's basically it. It's just incredible. So now we've got, in recent days we're seeing that the Ivory Coast is kicking off. But what else? What else? I mean, rattle these off, right? So we've got Britain in Bahrain, and it emerged recently that Britain's, what's it called? The National Police Improvement Agency had a couple of representatives in Bahrain assisting the modernisation of the Bahrain police force and supporting them in training of community policing, simulating operations like riots, armed sieges, etc., and counter-terrorism. Last October, trainers from NPIA NPIA's International Commanders Programme were there to construct a leadership programme, train members of the royal family, plus a judge, 3 lieutenant colonels and senior officials from various ministries, how to handle the media in a crisis. So, there you go, the British government already knew this was coming up. They sent a couple of policing professionals in there. This NPIA, this National Police Improvement Agency, is a quango, a quasi-autonomous, non-government organisation. So they take on activities that government organisations might take on, but they want that sort of arm's length, plausible deniability of activities, but they report into the Home Office. But the Home Office use them as an agency to go and do some stuff around the world, like MI5, like MI6, etc. So there we go. So we've got Bahrain as well. We know what's been happening in Bahrain. We've got the Ivory Coast. We've got Libya that's kicked off. The US is putting pressure on Yemen's president, Saleh, what's his name? Just calling him President Saleh. To step down. So we've got the Yemen as well that's kicking off there. Afghanistan, Iraq, we're threatening Iran. Unbelievable. The list just goes on, doesn't it? When you start looking at how many countries, and obviously there's all the upsets in Egypt, Syria, Jordan, I think, kicked off recently. So again, if you think about the world map, you've basically got a whole strip of North Africa, all at the southern edge of Europe, right out to I guess the far western edge of is it called Eurasia? The edge of Russia, etc. So you've got all those countries at the north there being jostled about, and we know CIA, MI6, MI5, SAS, Special Forces, we know they're all in there. The governments, the British government and the US government are all playing there. There's a power play at the moment, isn't there, for those countries just right on the south of Europe. We've got another one here as well, and why has this come up all of a sudden? 50 years later, Britain's Kenya cover-up revealed. And it basically says that when Kenya, between 1952 and 1960, when there was a rebellion against British rule in Kenya, we basically brutalised, murdered, massacred lots of people. Apparently unspeakable acts of brutality against them, including castrations and severe sexual assaults, carried out under a system of torture by British colonial authorities. And 300 boxes of documents filling 110 foot of shelving have been discovered. Apparently they were lifted out of Kenya in '63 when we knew we were going to lose Kenya as a colony, and now they're gone. The Foreign Office says that it's not legally liable for what happened. At least 12,000 rebels were killed, but atrocities were committed on both sides. Of course it was. That's what they're going to say, isn't it? Start changing it. And there's a concern that there's secret files about, the way that Britain basically just brutalised these colonies for Cyprus, Malaya, Nigeria, Rhodesia. These stories, here's the front of the Times today, these stories come out because governments are preparing, it's like massaging the way. They're getting these out of the way now. They're sort of getting rid of the skeletons in the cupboard, or getting them out of the cupboard. And so now we start looking at this geopolitical map and seeing Central Western Africa is being played here. And so again, if you look at the world map, we can see what's happening. Countries like China, Russia, the European Union, which can only act together because the countries are too bloody small, and then the US squeezing into the middle of the map here. So that's what's happening on the world stage as far as I can see. Aid not weapons. Absolutely crazy. Going to come back with a money update. There's some interesting things happening with some of the banking global elite and the power elite in terms of money. But I'll come to that in a second video.